Welcome to another installment of our 2020 Virtual Global and Community Engagement Conference, formerly known as D80. This year's conference is focused on the pursuit of social equity and representation. Traditionally, it's a one-day conference featuring multiple in-person panels and breakout sections. This year, the conference is being delivered virtually through the month of October, including a lecture series, a rosé gallery exhibit, and a walking tour, along with a series of online interviews with local and global changemakers throughout the Michigan Tech community. My name is Madeline English. I'm a member of the Conference Planning Committee, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing John Kusku. John, would you mind introducing yourself?
Sounds great. Hello, my name is John Kusku. I am a teacher of math and physics at a tech school for high school juniors and seniors in Wixom, Michigan. I'm also a Paralympic athlete in the sport of goalball with a silver medal from Rio in 2016. I am a spouse and a father. My wife Jessica is also a teacher, and my son George is in second grade.
Thank you for joining us today. So our first question is about goalball. You're a Paralympic medalist in a sport that most people don't know exists. Can you explain a little bit about what goalball is?
Yeah, so goalball was started right after World War II by some Austrians and Germans who were trying to find a recreational activity for people who were blinded during World War II. And since then, the game has evolved a lot and continues to evolve. In 1980, the Paralympic movement really took off, and goalball has been part of the Paralympics since 1996, and I joined the USA team in 2009. We missed London, our team didn't qualify, but I was able to compete in Rio in 2016, and we took a silver medal, which I have here. So let's start with the end first. This is our silver medal from Rio in 2016, and it does jingle. I'll talk about why in a minute. And on one face, it has the logo from Rio. On the other face, it has the Paralympic logo. It also, in Braille, says Rio 2016. And on the bottom lip, says goalball, men's competition. So what is goalball? Goalball is 3 against 3, played on a gym floor. The court's the same size as a volleyball court. You're defending a 30-foot wide goal and trying to score on the other team who's defending their 30-foot wide goal. 3 players line up in sort of a triangular formation to defend the net. You throw a ball back and forth that has to hit the ground. Usually it rolls, but you can bounce it. But it has to hit the ground in your 6 meters, and then it has to hit the ground in the middle 6 meters. So you can't bounce it too much, and you can't throw it high through the air. And the game is 2 12-minute halves. A full game takes just under an hour to play. And I do have a goal ball right here. So this is a goal ball. You'll notice it jingles pretty loudly. That is because when we play, we wear total blackout eye shades. So there is no vision allowed when we play goal ball, which is really important because someone like me, I am legally blind. I have this tiny little pinpoint of clear vision in the middle, but I have no vision around the outsides at all. I use a white cane when I travel, and I use a lot of adaptive technology on my computer and phone to access text. But because of my clear vision in the middle, if I was playing this sport without eye shades, it would be not fair to someone who had no vision at all. And so the Paralympics is all about elite competition, parallel to the Olympics. That's what the para stands for. And so you compete against people with your same physical ability level. So in blind sports, you compete against other people who have blindness, and in running sports, you might compete against some similar disabilities with feet missing or hands missing, things like that, to make it as highly competitive as the Olympics for people in each classification.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing about that. Do you want to share how you got into goalball?
Yeah, so my story's, I was a very active kid playing sports all the time with my friends. As we started getting older, I lost a little bit more vision. My vision condition is degenerative. And at the same time, all the sports that we played got more competitive. And so it stopped being as much fun for me. I got to a point where if I played as hard as I could play, I would hurt myself or hurt them or break something. And so around that same time, in middle school, I was introduced to goalball at little tournaments all over Michigan, everywhere from Caro High School in the Thumb to Eastern Michigan, Western Michigan, Michigan State. I've played goalball all over Michigan in middle school times, and then got into it even more through the Michigan Blind Athletic Association out of Western Michigan University in Kalamazoo, their sports education camp that they host every May to bring kids from all over the Midwest to introduce them to sports that people who are blind can play. A very inclusive thing that got me into it, got me into playing at the Youth Nationals on the Michigan team in 1998. And then from there, 2 other Michiganders, the 3 of us formed a Michigan team and traveled all over US and Canada for the next, 25 years I've been playing within the USA. And then in 2009, I made the USA team and got to travel all over the world.
Awesome. With that,
One more thing to add there, I started that story with I couldn't play as hard and fast as I wanted to. In goalball, I can, because everyone is wearing those eye shades, because we're playing in these zones that we play in. I can play as hard and fast as I want, as I'm physically able to, and I train every day, lifting weights, doing plyometric training, practicing throwing and diving, and when we're allowed, I travel a lot to Fort Wayne, Indiana, where we have a residency program, so I can play as hard and fast as I want and try to hurt the other team.
With that, do you want to share a bit about why representation is so important and what's it like being a role model for people learning blind sports?
Yeah, so representation is so important on every level, really because of bias and people's lack of knowledge about things. So if someone has never been around someone who is gay or has only heard bad things, then they're going to have an automatic bias against anyone who is that way. And the same thing happens with disability, age, race, and anything. By having representatives from all sorts of different groups in whatever level organization you're talking about, you are trying to eliminate those biases, trying to make the world equitable and fair for everyone. And having that empathy in leadership is so important and cannot happen without representation from as many different viewpoints as possible. And as far as being kind of a role model, especially to younger people who are legally blind or visually impaired, who are just getting involved in goalball, is just so huge for me, because when I was their age, I didn't really want to use my cane. I didn't want to be singled out as someone with a visual impairment. I would prefer the man in the grocery store to think I was just a little weird instead of him to know I couldn't really see that he was trying to hand me something.
Right.
And by being around the role models I was around, starting in middle school, young men and women who were not afraid to use their cane, who were reading Braille, who were not afraid to run into something and just say, "Oh, I'm so sorry." It showed me how freeing it is to embrace who I am, and my disability is part of who I am. I am John Kusku. I am legally blind. So when I can show that to youngsters, when I can run into a door or use my cane or use my phone with voiceover speaking out loud really fast, and they can see that it's okay to use those things, it's very freeing.
Mm-hmm. So what are your favorite things about teaching newcomers how to play goalball?
My favorite things, it really has to do with when they start to kind of enjoy it. When they, I think a lot of people, when they first put on those eye shades and they're like, well, now I can't see anything. It's very daunting and maybe a little scary. Yeah. And when they're able to have a little bit of success, they're able to throw the ball, maybe score a goal, maybe just make the ball go down the court, depending on their ability level, or when they're able to make a block and the ball doesn't get past them in the goal, and they feel that success and they get that energy from true competition, not from Uncle Billy helping you to shoot a hockey puck, from you
Right.
doing it on your own and having that that moment of this was me, I did this. No one made this easier for me. This is just how it was, and I was successful. So when that moment happens, that's definitely the best part of teaching.
Yeah. I also want to ask you a little bit about accessibility because I think it plays a huge role in both equity and allows everybody to get a say in representation. So do you want to explain some of the ways that things can be made accessible as well as why accessibility is so important?
Sure. So I think that access is something that's essential for all people, people of any sort of ability or disability level. And when developers of things, whatever they might be, spend time making sure that all people can access those things and really considering what limitations might be out there, that is very freeing. I've had a lot of experiences where I'm using something. Generally, it's electronics these days, and I can tell that the developers didn't take the time to make what they were doing work for people like me that use accessible technology to read text aloud, to describe photos for you, things of that nature. And then at the other end, I've also seen, I was looking at my school's website today, ostconline.com, and they went through that website over the last 10 years with a fine-tooth comb. Every single image has alt text, so when you tap on the picture or swipe over the picture or whatever you're doing, it describes the photo in great detail and explains what's going on. All of their links are described well, and it's a very freeing and happy moment for me because I'm able to access it and use that website in the way that it's designed to be used for anyone. I'm not sure if I answered your question, so if you want to elaborate on it, I would love to answer.
No, I think it's a lot of people when they're not exposed to a couple of different communities will think, oh, accessibility is just having a ramp instead of stairs for people to get into a building. But it's really so much more than that, and it affects so many different people. And it's really important to think about it when you make anything.
And, one thing to maybe elaborate on there would be how oftentimes something that's made or built or created to be accessible in one way ends up being such a help in other ways that's totally unexpected. So I'll give you an example. One of my favorite accessibility things that didn't used to be very common and now has become mainstream is what's known as descriptive audio. So when you are watching something in a film or on a TV show, when you go to the audio settings, you'll see, English, French, Spanish, and then there'll be another one. It'll say English audio described. And when you choose that, they took the script and they gave it to a narrator, a reader, and they added in another audio track that in the downtime in the show when there's no audio happening, they describe what's happening. And it was designed to help people who are blind or visually impaired, but it actually helps anyone who's not looking at the screen. Right. So if someone wants to be cooking while they're watching Netflix or working on their computer while something else is on the TV, a movie, they can. They're able to do that and know what's going on. And my son, who's 7 years old, he leaves it on for all of his cartoons that he watches. He never turns descriptive audio off. And I always ask him, George, you can see what's happening on the screen. Why do you leave descriptive audio on? He's like, no, they tell me what's happening. So even he likes it. It gives him more insight into the information. The same thing about closed captioning. It was originally created to help people who can't hear, and now it's played in all sorts of places where the audio of the show is turned off, like in loud restaurants or at an airport. So it's a universal thing that was originally designed as just an accessibility feature.
Yeah, I mean, I use speech to text every single day when I send a text because it's faster. Yeah. For me to just speak what I want to text mom. And there it is. It's all capitalized. It's all punctuated. I just
spelled correctly most of the time.
Spelled correctly. That's a fun one. So what changes have you seen in accessibility through your life? And then what would you want to see in the future to be changed?
Yeah, I think I kind of jumped ahead to this question earlier.
A
That's
little
okay.
bit.
When I was younger, as far as accessibility for anything blindness related, the avenues of access that are opening, have been opening, and are continuing to open are very electronic. Programs that read text aloud, algorithms that describe photos. These are very powerful tools that, as we are moving deeper and deeper into this age of electronic content, they're awesome. It frees up so much information. And I know that's going to continue to evolve to the point where they're working on descriptive audio for film that's done automatically. It's not someone sitting there writing a script. You just shoot your movie, and then it fills in what it thinks as it's learning to do is known. So that does some pretty good avenues of accessibility that I'm excited about for blindness. And as far as accessibility in general, I think that as time goes on, it's become more acceptable for people who have some special needs to be out in the world doing what they need to do to be the person they are. And so when that happens, when it becomes more okay to have a disability and to be out in the world, then people notice that and they pay more attention to accessibility and they try to make things accessible for all.
Right.
So I think that that's going to continue to happen, and it's important for people to embrace anyone who's coming out into the open, regardless of what they look like, how they talk, how much money they have, their gender, anything of that nature. When we feel comfortable being in the world, then accessibility has to follow.
All right. Is there anything else you want to share before we wrap up here?
Yeah, one thing I meant to say at the beginning. So this outfit that I'm wearing right now, I didn't mention it, is the opening ceremony outfit from the Rio 2016 Paralympics. It's the same as the Olympics outfit. The Olympics happen, and then 2 weeks later, the Paralympics happen in the same venue. So this is the exact same outfit that the Olympians wore. I got to wear it too. The only difference is this little patch. Instead of having the Paralympic logo here, it would have the rings, the Olympic logo. And so it's always a pleasure to get to put this on again, because it's not something that I get to wear very often. So I thought you were going to ask me about goalball. I might as well put on this little outfit one more time.
Thank you. All right. So if you have any more questions for John, you can contact him at john.kusku@oakland.k12.mi.us. That's his email. Thank you, John, for joining us for this interview. Everybody be sure to check all of our interviews with other changemakers. Simply go to mtu.edu and enter Global and Community Engagement Conference into the search tab. Have a great day.